What if I was to say that this is the biggest home game for the Thunder since Oklahoma City was up 3-2 against the Golden State Warriors the year the Warriors came back from down 3-1? Right? And I don't think there'd be much argument from it. Right? There were some big games last year against the Dallas Mavericks that they lost, but none with the type of pressure that you have having a 3-2 series lead, going into Denver, losing the game. Now you're at home after having a great regular season. And if you fall in this round of the playoffs for the second consecutive year, then what? Right? Then what? And, oh, yeah, by the way, Jalen Williams, the one we're talking about, was a yikes last night. He was like 3 of 17 or 18. That was what what I remember about the Dallas series, was some struggles there. But here's the other part to it is I understand that the Western Conference Finals and the NBA Finals are bigger stages. And maybe this is just me, my perspective as a former player, as a current coach. I don't think there's going to be any more pressure to win than there is on Sunday. Let me restate that again. So if, for example, the Oklahoma City Thunder win, go to the Western Conference Finals, match up with the Minnesota Timberwolves, I think the common or the civilian perception is these are the most pressure-packed games they've ever played in. And if they get past that series, they play in the NBA Finals. And right now only the Pacers have advanced. We'll see if it's the Knicks or the Celtics. One of those 3 teams they'll play against. The common perception would be that those are the most pressure-packed games they've already played in. But you can't get any more pressure than what they're facing Sunday. And if you can win Sunday, if you can overcome, you might play a better team, but Nikola Jokic is arguably, or maybe inarguably, the best player in the world. You have a team full of guys, that have all won an NBA championship. Right? And as much as they had too little rest going back to last weekend, now they have ample rest heading into Oklahoma City for Game 7. I've thought this for so long, and maybe the Super Bowl is the only asterisk to this discussion. But if you can win a playoff game on the road in a crazy environment, you can win another playoff game or a Super Bowl in a crazy environment. Super Bowl is not even about environmental. It's just about the magnitude of the game. Jay Stu, am I making sense? It's like we only call people clutch if they win a World Series, win a Super Bowl, win an NBA championship. But I remember, I want to say was it Adam Wainwright against the Phillies? It was one of those St. Louis Cardinals pitchers, and they beat the Phillies, and the Phillies threw out Roy Halladay. It was like a 1-0 game, and they tore off his uniform on the mound when they were celebrating. And I remember thinking to myself, if you can pitch well in that game, in an elimination game early in the playoffs, what's there in that in the World Series? There's nothing. There's still an incredible amount of pressure. I think some people don't see it that way. I do. The question is, if you can win a game, I think even the Knicks Game 7, I think there's more pressure on the Knicks in this game 6 at home, than there is Game 7 even in Boston, because you're up 3-1. Or if you're Oklahoma City, the questions for Oklahoma City are, can you win in the conference finals? Can you win the NBA finals? And people will say, hey, they've never played under that much pressure before. But the reality is that there's no more pressure than having a 3-2 series lead, coming back home, playing against a team that fired their head coach, fired their general manager, doesn't have a particularly deep bench, right? Feels a little bit longer in the tooth stuff. I mean, one of their starters is dealing with a really bad shoulder. It's I don't believe in levels of pressure increasing when you staved off elimination, when you've seen your season's end come before your eyes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Doug, I would agree, and I would even term it the over-the-hump theory, not to be confused with the hump theory, which is for a different kind of program. I think it depends on the overall team's situation, their recent playoff background, the experience of their players and their personnel. So for some teams in some situations, it might be getting over the hump out of the second round of the NBA playoffs, or a conference championship game in the NFL, or even one playoff game in the NFL. And when you're talking about that, what I recalled was the Kobe Shaq Lakers. The over-the-hump standard for them at that point was getting out of the conference finals, because their first year under Phil Jackson, they're the number one seed. They lead the Blazers 3-1 of the conference finals. Portland wins the next two, forces a Game 7, and then they go up by 15 in the fourth quarter of Game 7, and the Lakers had to get over the hump to win that, and that was arguably more dramatic, although Games 4 and 6, it was arguably more dramatic and more meaningful a victory than what happened during the NBA Finals that year.
You made my point perfectly. Use an example. That, by the way, was the Kobe to Shaq alley-oop, right? To seal the deal?
Absolutely.
Right? To win the game. Jay Stu, Perfett, that makes sense now? It's the idea of, because we operate in this world, the sports world believes that you've only shown yourself to be clutch and overcome pressure if you've done so in a championship game. And I would push back on that and say, can you tell me there'll be any more pressure in a championship game there is on the Knicks to win Game 6 in, where they haven't closed out a series at home in New York since 1999, or for Oklahoma City, who's taken on a kind of depleted Denver team that people think, and they're young and they're fresh, and the longer the series goes, they're supposed to be better, and all of a sudden they can't make a shot, right? They're not getting the calls they used to get. Like, there's no more pressure than that.
Yeah, I mean, because what are we saying otherwise? We're basically saying that pressure doesn't exist until you've been somewhere where you've not been since the 90s, or whenever it's been since the Knicks were in the NBA Finals. Like, yeah, this is not good for them, and like this is one of the things. Like, you gave the Celtics a bit of life. You had big games from White and Brown, and all of a sudden, like, you're suddenly on the back foot. Like, I think a lot of people looking at tonight is like, I mean, I know for certain, like, if this does not start off right for the Knicks, I'm already penciling in a Game 7, and at that point, it's going to get sweaty really, really quick.
Yeah, no, listen, I think part of the deal is that the Knicks, like in the Knicks' perspective, I don't think they're better than the Celtics without Jason Tatum. Like the Celtics are really good. Now, part of it is we don't know the health of Kristaps Porzingis. Right, so if you're down your best scorer and you're down your best big guy, no matter how much deeper and better a team you are, at some point that catches up to you the longer the series goes. But the point was more about pressure and this assumption that the bigger the game, the bigger the stage, the bigger the pressure. And I don't view that to be true. Not that I'm saying pressure doesn't exist, and not that I'm saying that pressure doesn't sometimes show us who's the choker and who can come through. They do. But there's just as much, if not more, pressure on Oklahoma City to win Sunday, on the Knicks to win tonight, than there is if they get to the conference or NBA Finals. That's more my point.
There's different milestones for everyone when it comes to pressure to get over this hump, to not fall back down. Like, I mean, even we just saw this, different sport, but over in the Stanley Cup playoffs that are going on right now, like, it was a lot of pressure for the Toronto Maple Leafs to finally win a playoff series. They did, and then end up collapsing afterwards. But, it's different monkeys everyone's got to get off their back. And not just, I think you're right that we put too much premium on that it can only happen in championships.
There's only pressure in championship games. Like, yeah, that's not exactly how it works.
I still remember when I think LeBron, when he was with the Heat playing the Thunder, and weren't they down in that series too? Before they but
did they lose?
No, I'm sorry,
not
the Thunder. It was against the Boston Celtics. On their way to the first NBA title with the Heat, I think. Like, I can't remember the record in that series, but I remember all the pressure on them because this was the big three, and they hadn't even I think there was more pressure on that series than when they played the Thunder in the final that year.
No, that's because James Harden was going out and wouldn't stop going out.